Congresswoman Jackie Speier, Democrat, San Francisco San Mateo, today introduced the Stop Harming Our Kids, SHOK, resolution, co-sponsored by Congressman Ted Deutsch, Democrat, Florida, and David Chicolane, Democrat, Rhode Island, to protect young people from the psychological abuse of so-called LGBT conversion practices. The SHOK resolution is the first federal action to end these harmful and discredited sexual orientation change efforts. At a press conference held earlier today, Speier announced the introduction of the SHOK resolution, as well as her work to investigate whether federal funds have been spent on these unethical practices that have been rejected as scientifically invalid by the American Psychiatric Association and other mental health groups for nearly 40 years. Being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgendered is not a disease to be cured or a mental illness that requires treatment. Any effort to change sexual orientation is not medicine, it's quackery, and we should not be supporting it with taxpayer dollars, said Congresswoman Speier. California led the nation on this issue when Governor Jerry Brown signed SB 1172, a law that prohibits state-licensed medical health professionals from engaging minors in these harmful and abusive therapies. Governor Brown did the right thing, and I am urging all states to consider similar laws, said Speier. The SHOK resolution encourages each state to take steps to protect minors from efforts to promote or promise to change sexual orientation or gender identity expression based on the premise that homosexuality is a mental illness or a developmental disorder that can or should be cured. In addition to introducing the SHOK resolution, Congresswoman Speier is investigating whether or not federal taxpayer funds have been spent on the practice of conversion therapy with minors through Medicaid or TRICARE reimbursements. In my cursory investigation, I have found 2 additional instances of so-called mental health professionals that advertise these services and appear to be eligible for federal dollars. This morning I sent letters of inquiry to Medicaid and TRICARE to determine if these instances reflect systemic weaknesses that allow federal taxpayer dollars to go to harmful, illegitimate medical services, said Speier. Congresswoman Speier was joined at the press conference by survivors Sheldon Brooke and Jerry Spencer, licensed clinical social worker Laura Brooker, Christine Sun from the Southern Poverty Law Center, Ashlyn Johnson from the National Center for Lesbian Rights, and Brian Moulton from the Human Rights Campaign. Statements of support from these groups and other LGBT advocates can be found below. I was reading from Congresswoman Speier's website here, and I'll leave it linked below. I knew this was going to happen. I've been waiting for it once California passed its resolution, and it hardly surprises me that Jackie Speier was the one to introduce it. During the hearings on SB 1172 here in California, conversion therapy was thoroughly discredited. Some of the people who were touting conversion therapy hadn't even read all the material on the subject. So that was very helpful in terms of trying to get rid of this all across the nation. You know the old saying, as goes California, eventually goes the rest of the nation. So hopefully this is a first step. Now, clearly, given the current climate, there's probably not a great chance that this is going to become law. You can't tell, though, but at least this brings this to the public awareness. These conversion therapies are utterly useless. The only evidence that they have that they work at all are apocryphal, in other words, people's testimonials. And most of these testimonials are from people who have a very strong religious motivation to change. It's interesting that a while back, I unfortunately I don't have the references right now. Sorry about that. I'll try to find them. But I remember seeing several testimonials from people who were now ministering to others themselves and talked about how they had been cured from homosexuality. What was really interesting to me in reading their biographies is that several of them, I don't even think they were gay at all. One woman who seems to blame everything on her lesbianism, in her biography, she was never really lesbian. She just had a couple of lesbian affairs. But she blames everything on that. The drugs she did and the alcohol she drank and her other behavior didn't have anything to do with it. It was her lesbianism, her alleged lesbianism. And I've seen this repeated before. A guy apparently had a couple of flings with men and suddenly decided, oh my God, I'm gay. and I need to be cured. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who are trying very desperately to suppress their homosexuality, but I just find it interesting that some of these people don't really have a gay background, and yet they're using their alleged gay background to, well, make money. So sometimes when you see these people, look into them. Anyway, that's basically all I want to say. Just hooray. This is a, well, it isn't a therapy. It's abuse of children. It needs to be stopped. And we sure as hell shouldn't be paying federal money for it. I mean, if we're going to pay federal money for this, we might as well start paying for exorcisms. Well, actually, some of the gay cures are exorcisms. I wonder if that qualifies for federal aid. Gee, I don't know, But if we're going to do exorcisms, well, maybe we should do astrology next, the laying on of hands, or, faith healing in general. I don't know, maybe, sprinkling the blood of a black rooster. Yeah, all sorts of, weird, useless crap. Anyway, thanks for listening. I will leave the link to Congresswoman Speier's website below. And if you want to read it yourself or, find out more about the Congresswoman. Thanks for listening. Bye.